Hello, and thanks for tuning into the show that goes around the continent to bring you stories near and far. I'm Joke Rogers at Channels Television here in Lagos, and I'm joined by Vincent McCory from the Voice of America in Washington.
Thanks, I'm Vincent McCory at the Voice of America. Happy to be with you again for another edition of Africa 54. Let's start off with the latest from Nigeria. Joke Rogers in Lagos brings you that story.
Families must be empowered through strategic nutrition education interventions to sustain West Africa's over 400 million youth population to achieve optimal learning outcomes in today's fiercely competitive knowledge economy. These were the words of the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, represented by the Minister of Health, Dr. Osagie Ehanire, at the opening ceremony of the 17th ECOWAS Nutrition Forum in Abuja. Our correspondent, Kayla Megwa, reports that the three-day program is a collaboration between Nigeria's Federal Ministry of Health and the West African Health Organization, with a theme focused on accelerating universal access to nutritious, safe, affordable, and sustainable diets.
Thank you very much. Please be seated.
It is the 17th ECOWAS Nutrition Forum, and it's holding for the first time in Abuja. Issues around stunting, wastage, anemia, and childhood poverty are taking center stage at this conference. Deliberate action by governments in the region to reverse this trend, capable of crippling productivity among people in West Africa, could make the difference. According to the National Bureau of Statistics, 8 food groups are necessary for children to be sufficiently nourished. In West Africa, a paltry 16% of children access 5 food groups. 38% only access 3 food groups, while 45.4% can only access 2 food groups. Hence the need for a system-based approach to turn the fortunes of the region around.
To move forward on this path, it is essential to review the support that public policies currently provide to nutrition. This will enable us to identify the reforms to be undertaken as a priority.
Nigeria's Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, represented by the Minister for Health, Dr. Osagie Ehanire, believes that aligning with the Sustainable Development Goals, preparing young Africans for a fierce, competitive knowledge economy, will require adequate nourishment.
And it is projected by some that by 2050 our region will have up to 600 million people. Almost 400 will be young people, 400 million will be young people. And the need becomes imperative to provide sustainable nutritious diet, quality basic education and health care for all of them. As a matter of priority, this calls for more public awareness and the strategic nutrition education interventions aimed to empower the family, particularly the woman, who is the mother of the house, and to have access to the family. You must be able to get to the woman in a family as a social unit of society, with messages on sustainable healthy diets right from infancy to adulthood.
This conference hopes to accelerate multi-sectoral collaborations to achieve nutrition security across the ECOWAS sub-region to attain global targets. Kayla Megwa, Channels Television News.
Let's get more on this, and joining us on the program today is Dr. Agbo Ebuta, Vice President, Medical Initiative for Consultant Medical Physicians. He joins us from Abuja studios. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. You're welcome, Nigerians.
Okay, so first let me start by asking you the importance of such a collaboration to ensure that millions of youth in Africa get access to good nutrition.
The young child, especially, during the first 1,000 days of their life, when their brain is developing and when they are supposed to achieve their full the framework for their full mental capacity. If they are exposed to malnutrition, what happens is that their capacity to achieve that full potential is significantly affected. Going forward and for almost the rest of their life, they will have lower cognitive abilities, they will have lower learning capacity, even social skills will be affected, their intelligence quotients will generally be lower. And it's been shown clearly that people who are malnourished in their childhood days, even when they grow up, their full earning capacity, their potential earnings in life is significantly reduced by as much as 10%, meaning that if you're going to earn $100 million in your life, you can significantly ruin 10% of that. That is to put it more graphically.
So we know that there are certain foods that, these groups of people must have access to be able to develop in the way that you describe. So, but something must be lacking. What are those food groups that are most lacking in the West African child's diet? Let me put it that way.
Okay, in terms of nutrients or diet, you talk of macronutrients. These are nutrients that are required in large amounts, and then you have micronutrients that are required in much smaller amounts. So the macronutrients will be things like carbohydrate, fat, and then proteins. These can also affect the growing child significantly. And when it's predominantly carbohydrate and fat, the conditions that occur classified under malnutrition classification will be things like marasmus, where there is a form of wasting and the child's weight is not optimal for the height that the child has attained. The other situation or the other macronutrients like protein, which may be deficient in diet, may lead to a nutritional status, a subnutritional status, severe acute malnutrition status called kwashiorkor. And this will present a bit differently with some bloating. If we were to take it a little further, if a mother is pregnant and has a growing child within her, what happens is that if a mother is deficient for folic acid, that can lead to effect on the brain of the child, and the child can have certain abnormalities like neural tube defects. These are defects in the spinal cord and in the brain of the child. And when the child is born, you can even have exposed spinal cords of brain, so to speak. And the key problem is that there are no sufficient calories in the diet of these children. There are lack of minerals, like we pointed out, in the diets of these children.
Right, so we are often told that, what is necessary for a good diet can also be obtained locally, by paying attention to, what's in season. Also, I also know that, Africa is described as a very rich continent, not only in mineral resources, also has rich vegetation. So, all these classes of foods that you have mentioned, what are the food groups that we have locally in Africa, and of course in Nigeria, bringing it closer home, where we can actually get access, to those things? Because some people would say that, some food groups are, too expensive for them to buy, but there are some that we can get locally that, the people that, have their children suffer from malnutrition can actually get access to.
Well, indeed, when you talk of the model plate, what we call the model plate, more like a balanced diet, but it's about creating that balance where you do not, the balance is not in favor of maybe caloric or carbohydrate-rich meals like sorghum or couscous or rice or gari or cassava-based meals or yam-based meals, mainly as the case may be. It must be balanced. Half of those meals must consist of fruits and vegetables, and a quarter of those meals must come from animal or plant protein, and a good mix of it. These are basically available in country. Yes, the dynamics may have changed, and when you look at the different regions in Nigeria, stunting, which is a clear indication of chronic exposure to malnutrition. Because when we say stunting, it means that the child's height for age is suboptimal. The child has not been able to achieve what would we expect in terms of height for age as a result of chronic deprivation of general nutrients, so to speak. So if you look at the dynamics, or rather if you look at the geographical distribution and you want to look at the regions in Nigeria, for example, you look at the northeast where you have about 42% of stunting, and in the northwest where you have about 55% of stunting, you would understand that if you look at the pattern of feeding a local diet, there may be a optimal supplementation with protein, which are critical.
Yes.
Most of those diets may be carbohydrate-based to a large extent.
Right. We must thank you for your thoughts on the subject matter today. Dr. Agbo Ebuta, Vice President, Medical Initiative for Consultant Medical Practitioners. Thank you so much for coming to Africa 54.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
The killing of Cameroonian journalist Martinez Zogo early this year brought into focus the threats media face. Viewers Jackson Vunganyi and Salim Solomon have the story.
Haman Mana, publisher of the Cameroonian daily newspaper Le Jour, is haunted by his last conversation with friend and fellow journalist Martinez Zogo.
He said he's scared about to be killed.
Yeah. He was worried for his life.
He was worried for his life. And he told me, when they will kill me, they will kill you too.
Zogo, managing director of radio station Amplitude FM, had been receiving death threats for several weeks. On January 17, Zogo sensed he was being followed and headed to a police station hoping for protection. He found none.
The gates were closed. Police would not allow him in, and he was dragged out of the car by 4 hooded men.
On January 22nd, Zogo's naked and mutilated body was found near Soweto, a suburb of capital Yaoundé. Mana said he was so badly disfigured that his wife struggled to identify him. Police arrested several people, including media mogul Jean-Pierre Amogu Belinga, whom Zogo had reported on, and members of Cameroon's DGRE intelligence agency. Known for his connections to the cabinet of longtime President Paul Biya, Belinga rose to prominence in the 1990s. Since Zogo's killing, investigative reporters have looked into allegations that Belinga used his own media empire to promote his interests and threaten critics. Now he is charged with complicity in Zogo's torture. Belinga's lawyer has denied the charges and says the arrest is unlawful. A bail hearing is expected later this month. But even with swift arrests, the killing reflects a wider concern over press freedom in Cameroon, with journalists facing harassment, arrest, and intimidation. Members of Zogo's family, too, say they are being threatened. Quintal says acts of violence against journalists are intended to silence the press.
We need to ensure that there's some sort of accountability and that those who have killed him are held to account. Because unfortunately, when you silence a journalist for good, but you also silence others around who are scared.
As police investigate Zogo's killing, advocates are pressing to ensure justice for the journalist and protection for his family. Salim Solomon with Jackson Mvunganyi, VOA News.
Healthy living seems to be a thing these days in South Africa, especially among older adults. A group of women in Soweto is not being left behind in the fitness game, and the women are taking responsibility to improve their indices by learning to swim. Experts say swimming is a sport which exercises most parts of the body.
At a public pool in South Africa's township of Soweto, novice swimmers in their golden years take deep breaths as they move forward, encouraging each other as they go. More than 40 older women who have never previously had a chance to learn how to swim go to the pool every week during the summer to face their fear of drowning and improve their health. Gabashane Molefe, 66, says she joined the class last year after her retirement.
My first time at the pool swimming, it was a challenge. It was a challenge. I couldn't float, I couldn't breathe, and my knees were so with scratches and all that. And I used to get irritated, but when I said to the coach that I am going to challenge myself, not anybody, I am my own motivator. I'm going to motivate myself.
She succeeded and now swims in the pool without floaties. Other students say swimming lessons have made them feel younger and stronger. Their swimming coach, Sibisiso Zabani, can attest to that.
They used to get tired when they walk through the gate. Now they even have a soccer club, these Grammys. So it helps them with their respiratory system. So, and the blood circulation again, it's very healthy for them. If their blood can circulate properly, it avoids things like strokes, short breath. So there are a lot of things that they are benefiting by swimming.
Zabani launched the initiative in 2021 when respiratory diseases were circulating among elderly because of COVID-19 pandemic. Now he's seeing his swimmers get healthier every day.
An international team of scientists is rushing to save West Africa's Atlantic humpback dolphin, which environmental groups say has been pushed to the brink of extinction. In 1987, Senegal banned nylon monofilament fishing nets that threaten dolphins and other marine life. But critics say the government has failed to enforce the law. Anika Hamashlag reports from Senegal's Sine Saloum Delta.
Senegal's Sine Saloum Delta stretches for hundreds of miles. The protected area is home to a dense web of mangroves that sustain a variety of animal and human life. It's also home to the Atlantic humpback dolphin. With only some 1,500 left in the world, conservationists say it's one of the rarest dolphin species. Scientists here estimate about 300 live in Sine Saloum. But they face numerous threats, including pollution and, most problematically, entanglement in nylon monofilament fishing nets.
The monofilament nets are extremely problematic because they are very strong. So when animals get caught, they can't get out. And so dolphins, certainly manatees, have a behavior when they get caught in a net, they spin. And that entangles them even more.
Monofilament nets are transparent underwater, making it easy to trap animals, such as sharks, turtles, and seabirds. Even though these nets were banned in 1987, and the law has been updated twice since then, they can still be seen in nearly every fishing port and boat throughout the country.
And we know it's illegal, but still they are using it, and so it's not enforced.
Government agents such as Samba Ndiaye are charged with protecting Sine Saloum's unique ecosystem. But on a recent outing while filming for this report, he and another officer did not confront several boats that were carrying the illegal nets. Senegal's Marine Fisheries Director insists the ban is being enforced, but acknowledges the nets are still in use.
Even if there's an impact on resources, I can't say that it's a considerable impact because we continue to have fish.
But fishermen, conservationists, and the United Nations have warned the region's fish stocks are rapidly depleting, which poses a serious threat to food security in the region. Some citizens are removing fishing nets themselves. Rodwin El Ali heads an underwater net removal initiative for the Dakar-based nonprofit group Oceanium.
Fishermen use the nets and don't even try to hide it. They don't hide it because no one is stopping them. Anyone can fish whatever they want, when they want, how they want.
So long as authorities fail to enforce the net ban, conservationists say Senegal's dolphins and other marine life will continue to pay the price. Annika Hammerschlag for VOA News, Sine Saloum, Senegal.
International and local artists paint giant, colorful murals on the exterior of a 15-story building in Ivory Coast's commercial capital called The Pyramid, an architectural gem that fell into disuse 20 years ago. They aim to give the neglected tower a new look.
A symbol of Ivorian prosperity in the 1970s and one of the first towers built in the central business district of Plateau in Abidjan. This futuristic pyramid-shaped building was neglected for years. The project's Pyramid 2023, Tomorrow is Already Born, aims to give it a second life. Through this initiative, Ivorian artistic director Lemon Otto renovates external facades of older buildings like the Pyramid, which was completed in 1973 under the direction of the Italian architect Rinaldo Olivieri.
We are all here to work together. In a way, that was the main objective.
communie ensemble en quelque sorte.
Minister of Construction and Urbanism Bruno Nabagne-Kohn says that the renovation must respect the original architecture of the building since the current structure is in good condition. Architects say many buildings in the business district are internationally known and could teach Ivorians about their own urban history.
Experts predict that psychedelic compounds could become a billion-dollar industry for treating depression and trauma after initial clinical trials in the United States show promising results. Out of respect for medical privacy, some full names were not used. Aaron Raynon has the story from New York City.
The future of psychedelics in psychiatry can be found in Midtown Manhattan at the Nushama Wellness Center. Here, under the guidance of a medical director, ketamine, a legal psychedelic, is administered to patients for an approximately 60-minute, high-dosage psychedelic experience. Cassandra, age 40, claims the benefits of this treatment outweigh traditional therapy for her.
I would say it's by far more effective, considering that I've been in therapy for at least 20 years consecutively, and I have been at Nushama for 13 months. In 13 months, I've made more progress than I have in 20 years.
But some experts feel there is not enough psychiatric supervision at such centers.
It's actually potentially a risky situation in which there's places that basically are high-volume clinical programs that are often not run with a lot of psychiatric oversight. A lot of them are run by anesthesiologists and other specialists who are not psychiatrists.
Hellerstein has been part of a recent FDA-approved clinical study that included 34 patients with depression who were given the psychedelic psilocybin derived from psychedelic mushrooms as a treatment for their depression.
It worked for a significant number of people, not the majority, but about 30 or 40% got better and mostly stayed better.
Hellerstein thinks there are multiple reasons for the success of these trials.
It looks like it has an effect, whether it's a psychological effect, like inducing a spiritual or mystical experience. The other hypothesis is it works on reorganizing brain networks and actually restructuring the brain and encouraging what's called neurogenesis, which is development of new brain cells.
And investors are not overlooking the potential market for the companies producing psychedelic compounds.
What we see here is that during the last 3 years, over $1 billion have been invested into these companies, both at the VC stage and coming public through an IPO.
But Piros believes this is only the beginning of a new pharmaceutical industry.
Sales for the approved drugs could reach over $1 billion, which could go up during the next 5 years or by the early 2030s to north of $10 billion.
With Johns Hopkins University estimating approximately 10% of American adults 18 and older suffer from depressive illness, there is a real potential to help millions. Aaron Raynon for VOA News, New York City.
Well, that's our show for today. You can find all the continent's top news and world news online at voaafrica.com. Check it out. I'm Vincent McCory in Washington. Channels Television has our last word.
We look forward to bringing you another show next week. Do remember that channelstv.com is your source for news and other programming. I'm Joke Rogers. Thanks for watching and goodbye.